Namaskar, good morning and good evening to everyone who is watching from India and other parts of the world. Good morning इसलिए क्योंकि डालस से बोल रहा हूँ तो यूएस में अभी मॉर्निंग टाइम है. So it's 10:30 a.m. that is Central Standard Time of USA and 9 p.m. in India. तो आज हमारे बीच एक स्पेशल गेस्ट है, उनके बारे में थोड़ी देर में आपको बताएंगे. वेलकम टू भारत अन्वेषण कार्यक्रम. टुडे इज जून 8 2025. हाँ जी, भारत अन्वेषण का यही एक हमारा उद्देश्य रहता है कि भारत के बारे में एक नया अन्वेषण, दैट इज एक्सप्लोरिंग एवरी वीक वन एक्सप्लोरिंग, whether it is a personality, whether it is a person, whether it is a NGO, whether it's an art, music या जो भी which is connected to the भारत, हमारा भारत देश, हमारा इंडिया के बारे में on the positive side of it. कोई नेगेटिव बातें नहीं करेंगे, कोई पॉलिटिक्स की बातें नहीं करेंगे, ना कोई धर्म या रिलीजन के बारे में बातें करेंगे, क्योंकि ये हमारा जो प्लेटफॉर्म है यहाँ पे लोगों को हम लाते हैं ताकि एक अन्वेषण करके लोगों तक पहुँचाना एक हमारा एक छोटा सा प्रयत्न मैं बोल सकता हूँ. तो सबसे पहले सारे लोगों को मैं थैंक यू बोलना चाहता हूँ, लेकिन हर इतवार ये कार्यक्रम शुरू होने के पहले हम भगवान को ज़रूर याद करके शुरू करते हैं. चलिए आज भी हम वो परमात्मा को याद करके ये कार्यक्रम शुरू करेंगे.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
गुड मॉर्निंग एंड वेलकम टू भारत अन्वेषण, और गुड इवनिंग जो इंडिया से ये कार्यक्रम देख रहे हैं उन सबको. आज हमारे बीच एक स्पेशल गेस्ट है जिनके बारे में हमने यूट्यूब में लिंक में भी डाला हुआ है, वैसे पोस्टर में भी हमने उनके बारे में बताया, लेकिन थोड़ा सा और एक आध मिनट वेट करना पड़ेगा, उनके बारे में अब बोलूँगा। लेकिन सबसे पहले मैं थैंक यू बोलना चाहता हूँ सारे दर्शकों को जो ये कार्यक्रम हमेशा हर इतवार को देखते हैं या बाद में भी देखते हैं। तो थैंक यू थैंक यू थैंक यू मैं बोलना चाहता हूँ, बिकॉज विदाउट योर सपोर्ट इट्स वेरी डिफ़िकल्ट टू रन दिस चैनल, रन दिस शो। वैसे ही सारे सपोर्टर्स को मैं थैंक यू बोलूँगा, क्योंकि उनके सपोर्ट के बिना ये कार्यक्रम चलाना बहुत मुश्किल है। वैसे संदीप सदानंदप्पा जो बेंगलुरु में बसे हैं, एंड ही इज़ माय टेक्निकल बैकअप, टेक्निकल गुरु, जो हमेशा हमारे साथ दिए हैं हर इतवार को हमारे दोनों कार्यक्रम के लिए। ही इज़ अ बिग सपोर्ट। थैंक यू ऑल फॉर बीइंग देयर। एंड डेफिनेटली आज मैं थैंक यू हमारे आरटी नगर रोटरी क्लब को भी बोलना चाहता हूँ, क्योंकि वो गेस्ट जो है आरटी नगर रोटरी क्लब को बिलोंग करती है, लेकिन उनके बारे में थोड़ा बोलना चाहता हूँ। She is a scientist by training, and she firmly believes that a combination of research and collaboration is essential to usher in sustainable solutions to tackle the challenges posed by garbage explosion in the urban milieu. Indian Institute of she holds a PhD from Indian Institute of Science. She has over 15 years of experience or more in molecular biology, bioinformatics, and toxicology modeling. As a member of the Bangalore Apartment Federation, she has successfully engaged with communities to help them adapt simple and cost-effective solid waste management practices. As a member of solid waste management जो association है, she campaigns for the Swachh Graha compost connect program to facilitate the sale of compost between apartment compost producers and buyers, and is part of the campaign team of Why Burn Waste. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Rotarian Sowmya Raghavan to our show, Bharat Anveshan. Sowmya ji, welcome to the show. Good evening to you.
Namaste.
Thank you very much for joining us today. कैसे
My
हैं आप?
pleasure. My pleasure. Namaste.
Namaste ji, namaste. I know that you are a very, very, very busy person. To get hold of you, it's not an easy task, but you agreed to join us today and to discuss about, the activities that
Yes.
you undertake, or, or you do with the help of, lot of supporters, lot of
Yes.
volunteers,
Yes.
and
Yes. Of
a
course.
lot of associations and so on and so forth. And thank you very much for giving us some time, and also inspiring other people who are interested in doing something for the society and
Hopefully. Yeah.
for their surroundings. Right, before we start, let's understand originally where are you from and how long you are now in Bangalore city.
Yeah. I was born in Tiruchinappalli में तिरुचि श्रीरंगम नाम के छोटे से टाउन में मेरा जन्म हुआ था. So मुझे आप एक टैम ब्रैम by birth कह सकते हैं.
अच्छा.
My father worked in various public sector organizations. He started with, in fact, the Indian Railways. I remember spending very early childhood in KGF करके एक जगह है कर्नाटका में.
Yes.
मूवी तो बाद में बनी थी, पहले KGF was famous as it
Yeah.
is. It has the
Yeah.
Kolar gold fields as they're called.
Correct.
उसके बाद we moved to Delhi. I did my early school education there also. And then for senior secondary education, we were, at that time, my father was posted in Adilabad and also Sikandrabad.
Wow.
And around college, we moved back to Delhi for around my college time. And that's when I attended Miranda House in Delhi. And I also got my master's degree from Delhi University. So then I applied for selection in PhD in Indian Institute of Science. And then I moved to Bangalore. Towards
Acha.
the end of my PhD is where I met my future husband, Ramesh. We married in 97. And ಆವಾಗಿಲಿಂದ ನಾನು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಯನ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದೀನಿ.
Okay, since then you are a pakka Bangalorean person.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I have a trans-Indian landscape of adulthood.
Yeah, sometimes these transferable jobs of parents, it helps a lot to
Oh,
understand
yes, yes, yes,
different state, उनके culture
yes,
हुआ या
exactly.
and it's very helpful. In fact, of course, it is painful for the parents at that time, for sure, because they would have settled down, and but I know that earlier in my Kannada Vani show also we had a guest, she was narrating the same thing because of her father's job of transferable jobs. They had to go place to place, and it actually applies to me also, because my father also worked in bank, and we had a transferable thing every
Okay.
3 years. We would transfer to, we will go to a new place. But very interesting background. Now you're in Bangalorean and you're settled in Bangalore. Very
Yes.
nice, very nice. And now, what is your background of education? I know that you are a PhD holder from Indian Institute of
Yeah.
Science. So उसके बारे में कुछ बताइए.
Yeah. So I initially started my science studies in chemistry. I did graduate in chemistry from Miranda House. And those are actually, I remember them as the most, probably the happiest, most pleasant memories of my life are probably associated with my college days. And then I also continued in biochemistry in the same university, and wanted to continue further future studies and research. And I completed PhD in molecular biophysics in Indian Institute of Science. So that is the background in education, I could say. And
So
I've
how
worked
did,
in research in that field relatedly on and off. I
okay,
moved to a part-time role once I had my second child. With This was around 2004, 5-ish, I could say. Then after that, I've been working as a part-time scientist and in toxicology, and earlier also in molecular biology regulation and gene regulation and so on.
wow. So you are a scientist I mean, by profession or
By
by,
training, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
by training.
And from the way I argue, a lot of my friends and colleagues say, also probably by nature, I am. Philosophy means that. Literally,
Right,
philosophy means love of argument.
right, right. That is true. That is true. So how did you get the interest, like helping people?
Yeah, actually, since you had suggested that about when you mentioned about the talk, I've been thinking about it. I've been wondering how it might have started. So now that I think about it, I should say my father has been, I think, an influence. I
Okay.
have often seen him come forth and help people and advise them. I've also noticed people asking him about should they do this or that, and I've seen him engage in that kind of service. I also vaguely recall a few comments from my mother that he's sometimes too helpful and he should not be. I remember a few of those also. And another thing, during my, I think my formative adolescent years, I would say I was in a missionary school in Hyderabad, Adilabad. So they also are very, constantly talking to you about service, selflessness, and things like that. I think all these might have had an influence, I feel. And but I also would say around the time of maybe late college, early PhD, I remember wanting the agency to change things, whichever I thought was not right or was not sufficient or adequate in some way. So those, in fact, I remember one of the earliest uh, so-called quote-unquote community work would have been what I did in the Indian Institute of Science Library Committee. In those days, I think early 90s, there was exactly one Xerox machine in the library, and ISC employee would come for very briefly in the morning, और दोपहर को long lunch break भी होता था, उसके बाद थोड़ी देर के लिए वो मिलते थे. This was becoming a bit of a problem for us. We are still talking about the days जब इतने smartphones नहीं होते थे and
Yeah.
everything was not digitized. So
Yeah.
सबका Xerox करके ही पढ़ा जाता था, right?
Right.
So we realized that we needed somebody else and we needed a private operator. So at that time, I learned that there was something called a library committee, and that is how you get in and you decide and propose a change and get it implemented. And we eventually did have it. In about 6 months, we did have a private Xerox installed. So that I would say was probably my first, earliest recollection of community work, and the fact that I learned that if you found your way into wherever the decisions are taken, and if you made your point of view and you could convince people, then things could be changed favorably. I think that I recall that very, very clearly now. And
Wow.
that would be the one of the first things. And
That
after that,
is,
now you do more and more. Now it sort of becomes, you feel as if it is your duty to do now. It's no longer a choice, as if,
wow. That's a good background, I would say. And I know that you are associated with the Rotary. Why Rotary? And then we'll come to your club activities separately. But why
Yeah,
Rotary?
sure.
You know, what is Rotary means for you?
Hmm. So during I think 2012, early 2012 or 2010 or after that years, we had heard about this segregation rule and things like that had come into force, because until then cities were dumping anywhere they liked near away from the city limits and so on. So a lot of campaigning by other important people in this area, specifically Dr. Almitra Patel, that brought in rules that made solid waste management to be managed in a particular way, that it was not allowed for municipalities to go dump anywhere. So around that time, all this was happening, and the municipalities, particularly the one that I was living in, Bangalore municipality, had also issued rules saying that segregation is now mandatory and so on. That's when I started getting more involved in my community work. I remember making a call to one of my committee members, saying that I want to help enforce this and so on. Before that, one of the members of Solid Waste Management Roundtable had also come to give a small talk in our apartment about how we should all segregate waste and so on. So I think that influenced me a lot. And after I started volunteering with this activity, we recruited a lot of people from various blocks, and we made teams. We divided how many houses each one will speak to. Those were very fun days, actually. And so we were successful in about 6 months, I think even shorter time, 3 to 6 months, I would say we were really on the dot. And I also worked by that time. We also had an apartment federation that was forming, so other communities also reached out to us asking us how we did all this and so on. So slowly the sphere of influence grew, and I thought it was around about 3 years ago, I think I thought it's now time to make a bigger impact at the level of Nagar, go beyond the boundaries of my community. And I knew Rotary had, some of our apartment members were Rotarians at that time. And I knew that by then that they had a network across India and definitely across the city as well. So I needed some framework through which we could transmit, our good practices, and more people can also start doing this. So that's when I thought Rotary was the right platform and framework to be associated with.
Okay, excellent detailed explanation, Sowmya ji. Let's take a quick break here, and then we'll come back about your club activities and things,
Yes.
other things. Okay.
साथी हाथ बढ़ाना साथी रे, 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 साथी हाथ बढ़ाना, साथी हाथ बढ़ाना, एक अकेला थक जाएगा मिलकर बोझ उठाना, साथी हाथ बढ़ाना, साथी हाथ बढ़ाना, एक अकेला थक जाएगा मिलकर बोझ उठाना, साथी हाथ बढ़ाना, साथी हाथ बढ़ाना साथी रे, साथी हाथ बढ़ाना साथी रे, साथी हाथ बढ़ाना साथी रे, हम मेहनत वालों ने जब भी मिलकर कदम बढ़ाया, सागर ने रास्ता छोड़ा पर्वत ने शीश झुकाया, फौलादी है सीने अपने, फौलादी है बाहें, फौलादी है सीने अपने, फौलादी है बाहें, हम चाहें तो पैदा कर दे चट्टानों में राहें, हम चाहें तो पैदा कर दें चट्टानों में राहें, साथी हाथ बढ़ाना, साथी हाथ बढ़ाना, एक अकेला थक जाएगा मिलकर बोझ उठाना साथी हाथ बढ़ाना साथी हाथ बढ़ाना साथी रे साथी हाथ बढ़ाना साथी रे साथी हाथ बढ़ाना साथी रे
Good morning and good afternoon and good evening to all the viewers there who is watching this Bharat Anveshan show. Today is June 8th, 2025. सवेरे का 10:50 इधर डैलस में एंड इंडिया में अभी ऑलरेडी 9:20। चलिए आज हमारा कार्यक्रम बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग कार्यक्रम है जो हम सौम्या राघवन जी से बात कर रहे हैं. शी इज़ डॉक्टर सौम्या राघवन एंड शी इज़ ए साइंटिस्ट from Indian Institute of Science and but these days she is doing lot of work on the environmental waste management मैं बोल सकता हूँ. उसके ऊपर काफ़ी सारे वो काम कर रही है and she is associated with the Rotary. जैसे कि उन्होंने बताया है कि भाई कैसे इंटरेस्ट हुआ उनको रोटरी में और and she is associated with one particular club in Bangalore which is called RT Nagar Club. So Soumya ji, welcome back to the show after this wonderful song, old song, which is basically meaning to Rotary and the people helping each other, right? Saath hath badhana saathi re.
Service.
Service, yeah. So without teamwork, it is very challenging always to do anything to the society if you want to do it in a big way. So I think that is how one of the reasons why Rotary comes into play.
Sure.
And, so सौम्या जी आप आरटी नगर क्लब के बारे में बताइए. आपके जो क्लब है उसके बारे में ज़रा बताइए. What position you hold there and और भी अच्छे बातें जो है क्लब के बारे में.
Yeah, so Rotary RT Nagar के nearly 30-40 members हैं अभी. And we work in various activities. Education हमारा एक focus रहा है, especially for those who don't have the privilege, government school children in particular.
Yep.
We did this year. That is, if you 10th standard के बच्चों को आप संडे को बुला के if you give them lunch and give them extra tuitions, हमने देखा कि उनके pass percentage में काफी improvement आता है. So this is something we've been supporting. It's a very simple initiative. You just provide meals and extra tuition and revision sort of tuition, and that made a big difference. It's one of the. We also support various other schools with basic infrastructure if it is lacking from whatever the government is supposed to provide. Or we also have a health and hygiene program for the young girls in schools, where we tell them about importance of hygienic practices, sustainable practices during menstrual hygiene and so on. We also work in other community projects like cancer screening. For example, cervical cancer screening है हमारा बहुत बड़ा focus रहा है. Before you find out it is too late, we think preventing cancer that is the main thing, that prevention makes a big difference. And many of the women in low income groups are primary wage earners in their homes. अगर उनका पहले से intervention से इलाज हो सके या somehow उसको control में ला सके, so you can prevent mortality to a great extent. And उनका उससे बहुत फर्क पड़ता है. So we do screening camps regularly. We also have other activities like a more recent activity we started called the Udvasana project. And ऐसे काफी interesting or important projects हम करते रहे हैं over the years.
Wonderful. So your focus predominantly, I have seen the environmental waste management. Right.
They call me an eco-nut.
Yeah. Why did you choose that particular thing as a very focused, subject, I would say?
I think I would say it chose me. It so happens that, as I explained, that we once had a talk by one of my senior colleagues from SWMRT, Mr. Ramakant. He spent one afternoon on a Sunday explaining to us that all community, everybody, in fact, and citizens now should start segregating their waste, and we should not be giving stuff in a black bag anymore. And I remember thinking that what he is really asking everybody to do is a very simple act. As far as any household is concerned, it's a simple act of keeping three bins instead of one and learning what goes where. That is all that you had to do. Now, it struck me that no other probably social crisis, important problem, national level issue is such that किसी के रोज एक छोटे से काम करने से वो सॉल्व नहीं हो सकता है. This gives so much agency. All that you have to do is to do the simple act daily of segregating, keeping your waste segregated and handing it over segregated. So that I thought was very empowering. And the fact that a lot of people don't know this simple thing and my involvement could make it simpler. And the fact it was so logical and easy, and a lot of volunteers whom I spoke to saw the merit in that. And we were able to convince a lot of people quite easily. In fact, a lot of reasonable minded people will do a simple behavioral change if you give them the entire system stream of how it is done. And that really surprised me. And I realized that it's a very empowering thing, and it's also a very simple thing. So we can probably, it occurred to me that we should definitely do more of this, and more people should do more of this. And that's all there was to it. So, and then of course, as we started engaging further, we realized we could also reduce waste. We don't have to just be segregating. Of course, it is a lot to segregate as well. But apart from segregating, there are means to reduce waste itself. So we learned to compost, and then we learned to do other activities by which we don't generate waste at all. So we moved to a cutlery bank concept instead of using disposables during our apartment events and so on. So every step of this is very empowering, and the amount of waste you save by simple acts of logical setups is really empowering. And that's how I continue to be more and more interested in this.
So, how challenging it is, to work on this, because see, it's you have to explain, you have to convince, you have to make
Yeah.
sure, you have to follow up with the
Right.
people if it is done or not. Like when it comes to volunteer work, it's always, I find it
Yes.
very challenging because
Yes.
it's you're asking someone to spare their free time, or
Hmm.
someone to spare their time, rather I wouldn't say
Hmm.
free time,
Hmm.
and then ask them to do, because in today's world everything is connected, on
Yes. Yeah.
return on investment, right? So so in
Yeah.
different meanings. So how
Right.
challenging, you find that, and what are the challenges you come across, on these on a day-to-day
Right.
basis?
Hmm. So in the early days when I started, it was actually very empowering for all of us. We were all very excited in our apartment complex because each of us had a list of houses to talk to and convince them to do things differently. So we were really excited. We would exchange notes. And we're talking about days when even WhatsApp was not such a big thing. We would talk over mail about how many houses we visited. We would talk over the intercom phone about how much progress we are making and all that. So it was very exciting. And one of the reasons it was easy was because we were already a community. So it was clear that if somebody is spending their time explaining to you that doing things differently is in our welfare,
Right.
everybody is fairly easily convinced. You cannot expect that level of conversion or that level of quick conversion when you talk to complete strangers or people outside. There is one major block about volunteerism, and that is your listener is not under any form of bondage to convert because you're saying so, unless there is a law, unless there is a penalty associated with not doing the way you are asking. So that is the biggest challenge in volunteer. The volunteer must have some form of, sorry, the listener or the person to whom the volunteer is engaging with must be in some way concerned by the time that the volunteer is spending with them. So that is I would still say is one of the major challenges. A lot of times when you're talking to other communities, they would say, okay, कुछ तो बोल रही है, बोल के चली जाएगी, हम बाद में भूल जाएंगे, अपने आप करने लगेंगे जो भी करते हैं पहले. That is the sort of, most people would probably think that. But luckily now we have, at least in the field that I am working, I have some support from the government in sense the law is in our favor. There are other, that is a rule everywhere in India, as long to the extent that and it's not just it's not a matter of a hobby or something that people would do if they had in mind. The only problem is that we don't have enough enforcement, as is true for several other laws as well. So that I would say is the major challenge in volunteerism. Of course, otherwise, people finding time at the right time to work with you. These challenges remain because when we all started, we were in a certain stage in life. Now, a lot of us have moved on from there. Newer challenges have come up, and we are getting older ourselves. Our energy is waning off. I now realize when I speak to people, sometimes it irritates me. Then I have to remind myself the listener is a new person. I may be singing the
Yeah,
same song.
yeah,
I have to say the same thing to a different person every time. So
yeah,
that is, I think, currently my level of if frustration that I sometimes feel is because of that. I have to remind myself this is a new candidate. You have to convert, not the person you spoke to yesterday.
yeah.
So that is the biggest challenge, I would say.
So,
Logically, everybody is convinced that the whatever is to be done is clear, but what
yeah,
it means for them and why should they do it if nobody is looking over their shoulder? That
right.
is the
So, is it challenging like you come across, the younger generation these days? How, I mean, do you find though that particular group of people or generation is challenging to convince them, or like we also have, someone closer to age of 50 years or middle aged, so and so between 40 and
yeah
50, and of course the elderly person, they do understand that yeah, these needs to be followed up, but again there are mixed population in particular, let's say
yes the
apartment complex, right? So how like what do you what kind of ratios or what kind of spread you find
yeah.
between
So I
the
think the younger people are the easiest to influence and convert.
okay,
And the older ones are sort of set in their ways and are difficult to convert to. And also the older ones sometimes are plain upfront cynical. इससे कुछ नहीं
yeah,
होगा, इससे क्या हो जाएगा, मैं अलग कचरा रखूं तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा, is usually sometimes the attitude of the more senior ones. Also, education makes a difference.
yeah.
Education, the fact that if you are dealing with somebody who's not educated, then you must have some other form of clout over them to have them listen to you. I mean,
Hmm.
some form of some other penalty, like a withhold a salary or something like that, sometimes works.
Hmm.
So they are not easily convinced by the logic of why you should do this. The educated ones are certainly convinced by the logic, but they don't see the processes in between that gives them enough faith.
Yeah,
And the
because
older ones, of course, are set in their ways and a little more difficult to convince.
yeah, older ones I would agree
Older, I
because
would also say older senior men are harder to convince than older senior women.
so all men out there listen to this very clearly, and
This is
uh,
just a ratio from experience.
no, I agree with you. The reason is, I think there might be a reason, like they would have seen in the past, they would have tried, for example, or somebody else would have tried to convince
Mhm.
them, and they would have followed that particular path, but nothing would have happened, you know.
Yeah,
So with that experience, they must have, lost the hope that इससे क्या होने वाला है, इससे कुछ नहीं होने वाला है, हमने तो कचरा बाहर रख दिया, लेकिन कोई लेके नहीं जाता है, and so forth. Now कचरे के बारे में जब हम बात कर रहे हैं, and when we talk about the waste and garbage and things like that, I personally have seen in Bangalore, right? I come there quite often, and definitely Bangalore is one of the city I visit quite often, and I have seen personally every gully or every
yeah,
turn that you take, you find a big garbage dump or something being dumped all the time, and it's not being cleaned, or it's not being taken away. Or is it like government is just blindfolded, or they don't want to see that? Or I mean, how how these challenges can be addressed, because since you are
yeah.
engaged so much into the environmental waste management thing, this is a
Mhm.
big concern, I would say, Bangalore city has. And because of that, it can also jeopardize the sewage system, and
Yes.
so and so forth. So have you ever thought to address this
Yes,
through
yes, we
your
are continuously
yeah
working on this also. So
okay
the problem with Bangalore is that recently the situation, I would say, has somewhat worsened also because we have not had an elected council in about more than 5 years now. The last time the council was dissolved, from then on, the state government has been in some form of excuse making with the citizens and we've not had an elected council. So, as the constitutional framework is set up in India, the citizens, those who live in the city, are represented in whatever they want done in terms of amenities, infrastructure, etc., through a municipal council. So, somebody like a corporator, someone called a corporator for your ward for every 75 to 100,000 people or so, should be representing your problems in the council. And that council must decide. It's one of the things mandated for the council is solid waste management. The urban municipality has a constitutional mandate to come to your doorstep and collected waste. Now, this is so far as the government is concerned. What is the citizen's duty? The citizen's duty is to give segregated waste. Now, if you have a government employee directly, banging on your door and asking for it, which is what happens in a city like, for example, Indore. Here we have an intermediate system. The municipality is mandated by the constitution to collect waste. It can do so through its own employees or through any agency that it chooses to be considered fit for the purpose. Now, when you have an intermediary agency, there is a further dilution of this implementation problem, right? So we don't have that person who's supposed to collect must directly report to somebody who is again somebody who's representing you. So this link is recently broken because of the absence of the council. Another thing that has happened in Bangalore is the setting up of a company that is supposed to handle this problem, that is supposed to handle the waste of the city, whereas the sweepers and the other set of workers are now continue to be with this government of the state government. So all these things have not yet fallen into place. The same experiment was tried in Goa, and they've been successful to some extent by setting up a company and the company handling the waste management issues of the city of Goa. Here we have had some history of land mismanagement and a mafia that people keep speaking of. And that is one of the reasons we are not making too much progress. But having said that, I feel we as a government in Bangalore are not spending sufficiently on IEC. In fact, as a nation, we are not spending. I was in Delhi recently and I did not find the situation any better. As a nation, we are not spending enough on the education campaign of waste management. For example, when you go to, even now, if you were to go to see a movie in a theater, you would be told that smoking is injurious to your health. We are not being told mixing waste and dumping it here and there is also injurious to health in a long-term way. We should be told that frequently.
Yeah, correct. Oh, that's
Government has more agency to do more, and I feel they're not doing enough. The citizens also cannot not engage or remain apathetic anymore, simply because of the volumes and the migration into the cities and the number of people that we still have to deal with on a daily basis. We do our duty. We have the right to demand a certain facility from the government. Both ways it works. It's a two-way street.
Absolutely. I think I agree with you on the citizens part of it by segregating, the waste when they put it outside or wherever. I think that definitely will help the companies or the organization who are trying to,
Right.
control the waste management.
Yes. You can
Very
also
good.
have shifts in waste management. That's also being worked upon. 3 shifts. People often say, "I'm not at home when the collector comes, so I will throw it outside." So there is an answer to that also, which is
Yeah.
also something which we have to work towards.
Okay, let's take another break here and then we'll jump on to the next final segment of today's show. Yeah.
La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La la la.
झूमे गाए मिलके धूम मचाए हो आओ झूमे गाए मिलके धूम मचाए चुन ले गम के कांटे खुशियों के फूल खिलाए ये मिट्टी चमके ऐसे वो चमके रे सोना जैसे
ये मिट्टी चमके ऐसे वो चमके रे सोना जैसे
सुंदर अपना गाँव ठंडी ठंडी छाँव गाए मस्त हवाएं
आओ झूमे गाए मिलके धूम मचाए
हैया है हैया है हैया है हैया है
हश 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 हश
ला 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 ला
हरियाली तुम ये लाए इस वन में बाग लगाए
हरियाली तुम ये लाए इस वन में बाग लगाए
कितने दिन हम तरसे रिमझिम सावन बरसे छाए काली घटाएं
आओ झूमे गाए मिलके धूम मचाए हो आओ झूमे गाए मिलके धूम मचाए सुन ले गम के कांटे
Good morning and welcome back to Bharat Anveshan show this June 8th 2025 अगर अभी अभी आपने ज्वाइन किया है आपको बता दूं आज हमारे बीच डॉक्टर सौम्या राघवन जी फ्रॉम बैंगलोर है जुड़े हुए हैं एंड शी इज सो फोकस्ड ऑन एनवायरमेंटल वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम वेलकम बैक सौम्या जी आफ्टर दिस ब्यूटीफुल सॉन्ग
Yes, song, yes.
yes
बिल्कुल बिना का गीत माले किया था
yeah exactly yeah exactly and sometimes it recharges
Yes.
when we were talking so thoda sa when we go a little bit on the other side right so it is like charging back to our
Yeah.
discussion
मुझे
so
भी शायद हिंदी गाने सुनते हुए वॉलंटियरिज्म करना चाहिए शायद इतना फ्रस्ट्रेशन नहीं बढ़ेगा फिर
I agree with you. That's why I mean when people you put those headset and just keep listening to song when you are working, right? So you actually you end up working more because your attention is somewhere else. And but anyway, it's everybody's different style of working, I would say. So I know that you have been working on several projects. You have worked in the past several projects. Can you give some examples of the projects you have done or you are going to do in the future so that our people who watch you doing that so they also can get inspired and get involved in the social activity?
Right. So as I said about the school education enabling, that is one thing we are very focused on. We also are working with young girls and enabling their menstrual hygiene be good and sustainable. So that's a very satisfying project, I would say. In fact, in one of our sessions, we had spoken to a group of police women about
Oh,
taking sustainable menstrual product instead of the conventionally used disposable products. And I was so heartened when one of them said, I wish ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್ ಕಾಲೇಜಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ನು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಸಿಪೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ and all. So that was something that disabled them from being with the being able to do whatever they wanted whenever they wanted. So that simple acts of enabling, I think I find are really thrilling. A small intervention, a simple idea, very timely, simple idea makes a big difference. I think that is the sort of reward a volunteer seeks because you cannot stand the whole day, saying the same thing over and over again. But when a switch has occurred, you know your job is done and you can back off and the work will still continue. So that is really very, very satisfying when you do this. And of course, our recent Utvasana brought up really pleasant surprises. And we have been really excited about how much we've been able to avoid from being dumped, and also how to what extent it has enabled waste workers, and the fact that there is so much resale potential inside our own homes which we are not tapping into. And the same thing we apply in our thrift stores also, which we work as with a different trust inside our apartments, where we collect donated objects and give them a new lease of life. Another person buys it and they find it useful. So these are all, again, simple acts, small things that make a big difference. I also remember another story I had read in one of the water conservation projects. So a toilet constructed increased household income significantly. I was surprised what the connection it brought, because if the access to the toilet was there for a woman, it saved her 45 minutes to 2 hours of water carrying work. You didn't have to carry the water somewhere. Instead, she worked somewhere else and earned more money. This, I mean, you would not see this as a very simple connection straight away, but the fact that it is so enabling really opens your eyes to things. And also, another recent study in Chennai, we often complain about women getting free passes and all that. That also recently translated to the money being spent on tuitions for children instead. The fact that the travel could now be free, where did the money go? The money went into children's education. So there are some interventions are surprisingly effective and are very satisfying when they bring fruit. So those would be some of the examples I would say. And of course, our green dining initiative, which we are recently pushing quite hard, that is the absence of disposables and use of reusable cutlery in big functions. We realized we were able to even do a wedding with the amount of cutlery that we have. That was also very enabling and satisfying. And we earned sufficient income by way of rental to expand our cutlery bank to another location even. So these are really satisfying and sort of cancel the frustration of somewhere when you did not do well. So I think एक हाथ से आता है दूसरे हाथ से चले जाता है कभी, लेकिन बैलेंस रखना भी पड़ता है कभी
yes,
बन भी
yes.
जाता है बैलेंस.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
those are some of the exciting things we are doing. We are also going to do more tree planting work and hopefully more health-related projects, again concentrating on prevention and not curing prevention of cancer especially. That's something our club is very keen on, preventive screening. So we are trying to expand that base also. So these are some of the things we will focus on. And newer ideas, of course, will come when the board changes newly.
Excellent, excellent. And let's watch a quick, small video here of
Yeah, sure.
Sowmyaji's work. Very interesting. What exactly is this brand audit?
Yeah, yeah. So this is something which was proposed by an organization called Break Free from Plastic. I chose to send you this particular video because this year's World Environment Day theme is also Beat Plastic Pollution.
Okay.
So this is a Break Free from Plastic Organizations initiative. So we commonly, you and I would think, that the रेडा वाला on the side, उसके प्लास्टिक लिफाफे में फल वगैरह देने से ही प्लास्टिक जम जाता है and all that. But what is really true is that 80% of the plastic pollution is created only by 20% of the brands, the big brands.
Hmm.
So this is what we learned. So the brand audit basically looks at all the discarded empty packaging and chooses to find what category of providers, what type of substances are most found in this stream of waste. This is not the kitchen waste. It's not the biodegradable kitchen waste. This is the packaging waste. You buy a packet of chips packet. You buy
Chips.
some drink. You buy some grocery. You buy curd, milk, paneer, whatever. What is the packaging made of? Or anyway, even household cosmetic products, soap, so many things. What are they made of? Which are the providers of that kind of product? What is it? Are they taking it back? Is there a stream to recycle them well? This is what the focus of that audit was. What we found was that large number of the top polluters. I don't want to name them here, but the top plastic polluters, which are they? That's what the study learned. It was done by the organization that called for it was Break Free from Plastic, but because we have such a engaged community at our White House apartments, we got enough volunteers to sort through our collected waste, and we gave the data to that, which made the report possible. One of the organizations that made a report. A lot of apartments from Bangalore Apartment Federations participated. We were one of those.
So, like people, we still like knowing the fact that plastic is definitely hazardous, and also knowing the fact that plastic usage makes the environment more dangerous or hazardous. We do drink.
Sometimes.
So yeah, we do drink lot of water, right? Through these plastic bottles. What do you?
Yeah,
What
that
do
should
you?
change.
Yeah.
We are organizations like ours are continuously talking to these water providers to make them see that we need the water, we don't need the plastic bottle. Several states, for example, California has banned the plastic bottle, if you remember, and it's possible to deliver water without the bottle. So that's the simple message.
Yeah, they
Get the
have a
water,
very
not the bottle.
yeah, they have a metal bottle right now.
Yeah, you can
And
you carry your own is the best solution,
yeah,
or have situations where any fountain-like situations where you don't need any container.
yeah,
And over time, at about many behavioral studies show that you can change a habit in about 3 months if you keep trying and doing a certain, you know, going through our workflow. You tell people in many offices, we've tried they have these paper cups near the drinking fountain. So we advise them to put a simple poster saying, in the next 15 days, we will stop these paper cups. Please start carrying your own bottles.
yeah.
It works. 80
It
to
works.
90% of the time, it works.
Yeah, it works definitely, because I think I've seen a lot of, especially the younger generation, they carry their
Yes, they
own,
carry, yes.
the bottle, and which are
The
not
younger
plastic.
generation are very aware actually
Yeah,
because of either because of peer pressure or because of all the hammering that we've been doing or because of Greta, whatever, whatever works.
वेरी गुड सौम्या जी. इट्स वेरी वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग. 1 घंटा कैसे बीत गया पता नहीं चला. Environment waste management itself is such a huge
Yes.
and vast subject. I mean, definitely we have so many things to discuss, and
Sure, sure.
people have commented very nice, great initiatives. Thank you very much. Then somebody said Reliance Petrochemicals PET preform Coca-Cola Pepsi. So
I
okay.
see.
Yeah. Yeah, so there are interesting comments. Thank you very much, and thank you all for watching the show today. And do subscribe to our channel. Do share our channel link. People can watch anytime they want, because it will be always there on the YouTube. So before we wind up, Soumya ji, you have any message to our audience?
Yeah, I was thinking about this too. So I think I would like to say 3 things. One is we should all spend more time thinking and doing simple acts that have huge collective impacts. That's something we should never stop doing. Second, I think is whenever you're able, whenever you're not not undergoing any major life change in your stage of life, like a marriage or childbirth or anything like that, whenever you've passed all those crisis type of situations, you must extend your ownership to a little more than self and family. I mean, a few yards outside your house, take ownership of that area, that problem, just a little bit more. And the third thing is, do not think money or funds is the only enabler. It's also sometimes the time that you spend converting somebody else to do what you've been doing. That I think is a more sustainable, that something will just sustain over generations. Those are the
Excellent.
three things I want to say.
Absolutely brilliant message, I would say, and
Thank
I
you.
definitely it would help people to rethink what they have been doing, and I think they will go out there and try to help the society. At least I would say that start from your
Yes,
area,
yes.
in the
Charity
beginning.
begins at home, sort of
Yeah.
thing. Yes.
So start from your area, go to the apartment complex, start from there. In fact, I know that there is a group of people in Mumbai. One of my good friend, he started a group of people called as Soch Sayani, and in Mumbai, and they have done so many good things around their area itself. They believe that we start with our area, then we start
Yes.
expanding slowly and steadily, and they are doing excellent job right now. And but of course in a very smaller way, but very impactful, I would say.
Yeah, but
So
yeah, that may all be that is needed also. If everybody does the same, I think बूंद बूंद से घड़ा भर जाएगा, I guess.
yes, absolutely, very well said. So दर्शकों को यही बोलता हूँ कि जैसे कि सौम्या जी ने बोला कि एनवायरनमेंट इज़ डेफिनेटली, हम लोग जो फ्रेश एयर हम लोग ब्रीथ करते हैं, हमको अच्छा वाला फ्रेश एयर चाहिए, एंड विद द मच AQI लेवल, मच बेटर AQI लेवल, ताकि ये नहीं कि भाई हमको लोग वी आर consuming more and more or inhaling more and more carbon monoxide kind of air quality. हम लोग ऑक्सीजन जैसे जो है ना, थोड़ा सा एयर क्वालिटी प्योर ऑक्सीजन थोड़ा सा होने दो, दैट वी वांट टू इनहेल, दैट वी वांट टू ब्रीथ इन एंड आउट, वो ज़्यादा अच्छा रहेगा टू आवर हेल्थ, टू आवर सराउंडिंग्स, टू आवर एनवायरनमेंट. क्योंकि गार्बेज जैसे आप फेंकते हो तो उसको सेग्रीगेट करके फेंक दीजिए, ताकि ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जो है उनको थोड़ा आसान हो जाएगा. सो इवन द काउंसिल हुआ या म्यूनसिपालिटी है, उनको भी थोड़ा आसान हो जाएगा, ताकि वो उधर ही डंप करके नहीं छोड़ेंगे. तो ये एक्चुअली ये कार्यक्रम जो है ना हमारे इनिशिएटिव से होता है, सिटीज़न के इनिशिएटिव से. तो हमको इसमें डेफिनेटली वी हैव टू टेक आवर ओन स्टैंड, एंड देन we can definitely address more and more to these kind of challenges. Sowmya ji, thank you very much
Thank
again.
you. It was a pleasure.
And it is a very lot of good stuff you mentioned, eye opener kind of points you mentioned, and I think people would follow your advice, follow your strength, and
Yes.
help you and be with you to
Sure.
support on your projects. All the best
Thanks
to
so
you.
much.
And
Thank you very much.
And thank you all for the audience to watch our show today and commenting. Very nice. And somebody also said congratulations and more strength to you. Thank you very much.
you.
And with that said, अगले हफ्ते फिर मिलेंगे. हम बात करेंगे अगले हफ्ते वास्तु के बारे में, जो बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट माना जाता है इंडिया में. एंड वी ऑलवेज केयर फॉर, जब भी कुछ कंस्ट्रक्शन करना चाहते हैं घर के लिए या दुकान के लिए या शॉप के लिए, तो वास्तु प्लेज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल इन आवर सोसाइटी. सो उसके बारे में बात करेंगे. वी हैव एन एक्सपर्ट फ्रॉम राजस्थान. तो हमारे साथ बन के रहिएगा. टिल देन, जहाँ पे भी रहिए तंदुरुस्त रहिए और खुश रहिए और लोगों को मदद करते रहिए. विद दैट सेड, गॉड ब्लेस और नमस्कार.